Hello, Marion. Thank you for giving me this chance. This is my homemade version, unironed shirt with children in the background. Feel free to not listen all the way through to the end. Red lorry, yellow lorry, red lorry, yellow lorry, unique New York, unique New York. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Viewpoint from Aviva Investors. In this quirky series, we'll look at the key themes that we... This is my shot at the big time. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Viewpoint from Aviva Investors. In this quirky series, we'll look at key themes that we'll anticipate will exert a critical influence over financial markets for the foreseeable future. Themes that will affect the way we invest our clients' money. We'll explain how and why we think factors such as geopolitical instability and the triumph of reflation over deflation could shape the global economy and financial markets in the coming months and years. Let's start with monetary policy divergence. I'd like to welcome Stuart Robertson, Senior Economist at Aviva Investors, to give an insight into policies across key global markets. Thanks, Stuart. Turning now to China. Mary Nicola joins us from Singapore with a report on the Chinese economy. Moving on, let's look at the global economy, where the underlying inflation picture suggests that the outlook is much better than many of the headlines suggest. Inflation in Europe is above 1%. As long as commodity prices do not fall further, it could easily move up to 1.5%. Mick Grady, senior economist and strategist at Aviva Investors, reports on the key themes. Next, I'd like to hand over to Kevin Gados in Chicago to take us through the outlook for commodity prices. Thanks, Kevin. Continuing at the global level, while private sector balance sheets are much improved in the developed economies, such as the US and to some extent the UK, public sector debt has ballooned in these countries. Given that central banks own much of that debt, we do not expect government bonds to be sold back onto the market. So the debt burden in these countries, in these economies, is not as much of a problem as the headline levels imply. The picture in the emerging economies is different. While debt ratios may be lower, interest rates are much higher and much more volatile than in the developed world. As a result, these countries cannot maintain the same level of debt burden as their advanced counterparts. Investors must analyze the economic fundamentals of each issuer rather than focusing upon apparently attractive levels of yield. Emerging market local currency debt is also exposed to a strengthening dollar. At the same time as the rise of China and an increasingly assertive Russia is leading to a multipolar world, which is exacerbating geopolitical tensions and creating potential flashpoints in areas of the world such as the Middle East. And finally, calamities such as the global financial crisis have periodically struck financial markets ever since they first came into existence. The tulip bubble of the 1630s provides an early example of Inevitably, these setbacks precipitate a wave of new regulations that invariably produces unintended and unwelcome consequences. True to form, the authorities have introduced a raft of competing and sometimes opposing regulatory financial requirements since the global financial crisis. The negative consequences of some of these measures, including lower levels of liquidity in fixed income markets, are now apparent. Investors who can understand the dynamics of these new regulatory measures are likely to enjoy enhanced returns, while those who do not could suffer loss.
I'm McLaughlin.
I'm Brad McLaughlin, signing out. You stay classy, Aviva.